Okay, Algebra 2. We're going to be doing something called composition of functions. This is going to be two things. Number one, will you have this ability to read what this information is telling you to do? That's half the credit. And then the other half of the credit is going to be your arithmetic and being able to like simplify and get things where they need to go. So I'm going to tell you that from history that this is a difficult lesson for most kids. But when it clicks, okay? It's one of those types of lessons. So the most important thing I want you to do when you're doing this today is I want you to focus on the actual notation. At this point in your life, it's much harder to learn new language than it was, say, at age 12. And so you're going to basically have to learn this. And this is weird. So what do we mean by compositions of functions? Well, if you remember yesterday and the day before what we were doing things like, and you don't have to write this down, but we were doing things like writing f of 3x. So what does that look like when we have f of 3x? Basically, it's instructions. It's saying, hey, take the f of x, equation, and shove in 3x instead. And that's basically what it is. Well, what if I had something that looked like this? What if I had something that was f, right? And then I said in the middle of it what I want you to do. Instead of shoving in 3x, I want you to shove an entire equation in this. Now look at this weirdness. Now this is saying, hey, we're looking at equation f, but I want you to shove in equation g into equation f. That's what that is saying. And you see this right here? This right here is the exact same way. So I often refer to this as fog because it looks like fog, but it's the composition. This says f of g of x. And so this right here is your number one. This right here is your number one, what you want to get into your head. You want to make sure you understand what this is saying. This is ultimately saying take the equation g of x and shove it into the equation f of x. So how does that look? Well, we have this perfectly worked example for you on this notes, but these are always hard to follow no matter what. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about how I do these questions. So now this is the answer right here, not answer, sorry, but the problem right here. So this is saying here is f of x, here is g of x right here. They want you to express f of g of x. So whenever you see these, one of the first things I do and I tell kids get into the practice is go ahead and rewrite this. When you see that f of g of x, write it like this, f of g of x. Let's get into the habit of doing that. That just lets your brain know, like, hey, I'm taking g of x and I'm shoving it inside my equation. So what does that look like? Okay, I'm going to go back to the original equation f. Since f is the one we're going to be putting stuff into, watch what I do. I'm going to take my f and I'm going to open my parentheses just like that instead of writing that x. Now check it out. I'm going to write my -5. Now I'm going to replace my x just like we did the last 2 days. I'm going to replace it with open parentheses, and then I'm going to have my +2. Okay, now it wants me to insert g of x. It wants me to put inside g of x. Now I can write g of x inside of both of these things, but then I'd have to write one more step as well. So what does g of x equal? In this case, g of x equals 3. So it wants me to insert g of x. I'll go ahead and show you that weird little step. You can technically write like this. Right? This is what it looks like. It looks bizarre and you can't do much with it, but this is technically correct. So this is saying, okay, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to shove in g of x into this. So now I'm going to rewrite it with actual usable numbers. F of, what does my g of x actually equal? It equals 3 in this case. So I'm going to replace it with 3. I'm going to have my -5, and then I'm going to open my parentheses. And what does my g of x equal in this? It equals 3. So I'm going to put that there and then write this all down. And now what I'm going to have is -5 times 3 is -15 plus 2, and that evaluates out to -13. So for your answer, you end up with -13 on this. It's not too terrible, but you get the idea. So that's the main lecture. I'm going to do videos broken up into smaller ones for this lecture.